Funny how this now makes me nostalgic for 2011 instead of the 80s.
I remember playing this at 15 in the DMV with the purpose of creating a weird nostalgic memory, and it worked.
This is what a 7 to 11 at 4 a.m. sounds like.
It's actually crazy how vaporwave it was supposed to emulate a nostalgic 80s vibe, and now it's actually nostalgic. Miss 2011 so hard, man.
Time to remember the memories that I never experienced.
The craziest thing about vaporwave is that it still feels brand new.
This makes me want to watch public access TV. From California, in the 80s, at McDonald's.
I'm 50. Grew up in the early Canadian punk rock scene, and am just discovering vaporwave now. Fucking brilliant stuff. This album is incredible.
It's something it's so futuristic. It's something it's so futuristic.
I can't believe this is gonna be turning a decade old next year. Damn. Where has the time gone? This album was a huge part of my life when I discovered it, as an emotionally conflicted 13-year-old. I listened to it nearly non-stop for almost a whole year. Coming back to it now, after not having heard it in God knows how long, it's still incredibly well made and deeply atmospheric. It's kind of ironic how an album deliberately designed to evoke a completely artificial, detached nostalgia for late 20th century consumer culture makes me genuinely reminisce over a time in my life that was barely even 5 years ago and wasn't even that pleasant to begin with. The human mind works in such strange ways, doesn't it?
A random peaceful night in the 80s. You're a kid. You're sitting in the back seat of a car moving on the road. Nothing wrong can happen because your dad is driving and you're going home. You put your head back on the seat and watch the sky and the street lights fly by the rear window. Mom turns the radio on. A song plays. It's not old, but it already feels nostalgic. Almost falling asleep. You long for your comfy bed. And yet, you wish time could stop on this very moment. It's just a memory. It's vapor.
I was a junior in high school back in 2015, and I had a good friend who showed me this album. We were getting high at time on a school night, and it blew my mind. We would listen to it and other vaporwave classics like it constantly from that point. Life seemed very directionless back then, but I was able to lose myself in the moment and create sanguine memories. My friend and I had a falling out, and he ended up moving to another state, and we haven't talked since. It's funny how a genre that capitalizes on nostalgia was able to itself create such strong memories for me and many others. Looking back now, it feels like a time capsule.
A while ago, I saw some poll about the greatest albums of all time. Deep down past all the David Bowies, Elton Johns, and random prog rock band, this album sat there. I was shocked, but kinda thrilled. Past all the old memes this album represents, it really aged well. Still love this after all these years.
To me, this sounds like the 80s I remember growing up in. Not the pop music of the time, mind you, but more like the white spaces outside of the mixtapes I used to share with my friends at the time. The background music in shopping malls that I can't quite remember, and yet it actually sets the soundtrack for a time in my life that I can never get back. Oh, this was the feeling that was long, long missed, and can't be duplicated by buying a new copy of an old 80s pop song.
This album is the musical equivalent to playing a GameCube emulator with a modern controller.
I love how the first song my favorite translates into boot. I know, it's turning on the computer, not the shoe, but whenever I listen to it and think about its name, it makes me smile. Really, English isn't my first language, and I'm awful at communication. Grammar, dunno.
Nostalgia of something you never felt or lived. The feel of your brain melting, getting high without drugs. Keep going, I'm just taking notes of how it feels to chew 5 gum.
I put this album on for my dog now. He barks in all uppercase with spaces between the letters and wears bucket hats.
The first track reminds me of Japan. 1989, you're in an urban city in a small bar, store. It's midnight, it's cold, it's raining, and you're drunk. You're thinking about your old memories and stuff. Even though I've never existed in the 20th century, I still feel the 80s vibe.
There's something unique about vaporwave. This type of music and the community that listens to it would never have been possible before the internet. It is truly a phenomenon of the digital age. The juxtaposition of that fact with the entire 80-90s aesthetic makes for a disturbingly pleasant vibe, if that makes any sense.
I come back to this album because it always takes me back to when I was lost and didn't know what my purpose in life was. Now I'm stable, but listening to this always reminds me of where I came from, and I'm forever thankful for it. I always listen when I'm drunk. It takes me back to when I was young and naive. I am still grateful because it still reminds me of where I came from. To all those who feel lost, don't give up, just keep going. I promise you will find your purpose.
When I was 23, I was in evening college in downtown Los Angeles. I took the train, and I listened to vaporwave almost exclusively. This album just takes me back to empty trains, city skylines, my old Casio watch, a dark campus, and just general nostalgia. How I wish we could get a Floral Shoppe for today's world. I really wish I could meet Vetroid and tell her how this album kept me company while I traveled all those nights in college.
I still remember in 6th grade, I listened to this entire album after listening to 420 a few times before then. I was sitting on the kitchen floor playing it on the family laptop with my most likely half-broken headphones. I still listen to the tracks and often play Tar Baby, the original of the first song, when I'm working on homework or yet another project. Just felt like sharing the
I was 15 in 1985. Back then, today's everything TikTok, Snapchat, Xbox Live, Twitch, FB, YouTube, etc. In other words, in real life where your parents first took you to see Santa Claus, where you met your first boyfriend or girlfriend, where the arcade was your first introduction to the then still new and life-altering magic of video games, and where you got your first job, etc., was the shopping mall. And for days we'd sit at the mall in some pastel and neon food court, and we'd hear this exact music above, beckoning out of some distant speaker, forever branded into our brains.
This is the gateway drug to vaporwave. Once you like this, there's no going back.
I had a seriously spiritual experience at 10:46. I was faded in my car, anxious before work. My breath was poison. My teeth felt bumpy and grimy. Sweat beaded on my forehead. Smoke wafted out the cracked window. I hunched over and smoked my last bowl, and chased it with the last of my six-pack. Then, the cord swept me under a rug and I was stretched thin. 1,000 bees buzzed in my head.
Am I the only one that actually likes this? It reminds me of abandoned malls and Silent Hill.
Floral Shoppe by Macintosh Plus, a lifelong classic. The Vaporwave album that simultaneously transports you to the past and the future. It's as if you're watching a nostalgic memory through a futuristic lens. Listening to Floral Shoppe feels like staring at a vase of wilting flowers, melancholic yet beautiful. It reminds us of the ephemeral nature of life, how everything has a beginning and an end. But despite this, there is a certain beauty in the impermanence of things. Perhaps that's why Vaporwave has become so popular. It's a genre that celebrates the transience of our culture and invites us to reflect on our relationship with technology and consumerism. We are reminded that even the most advanced and sophisticated products will one day become obsolete, and that our own lives are just as fleeting. So, let us take a moment to appreciate the beauty of Floral Shoppe and the Vaporwave genre, and to contemplate the fragility of our own existence. Let us cherish every moment we have, and find beauty in the impermanence of life.
Did I just travel back to Japan in the early 90s? It sounds like this is what they would have felt when their economy went down. Or is this the Great Depression meets postmodern America?
Good to find music that a 40,000-year-old like me could really relate with.
I remember getting up in the morning, going down to the mom and pop shop down the block from my house, and I used to get a Pacific Punch Monster at the ripe age of 7 every single day with my lunch money I was supposed to use for school, and they would play this on the radio all the time in there. And I clearly remember it because I used to buy ice cream and eat it in the store at the table and watch old dudes scratch off lottery tickets, and this would always be playing.
Madness is killing me so slowly. Madness is killing me so slowly.
Last I played this, we were smoking menthol L&Ms, stoned out of our gourds, sipping coffee and musing on our adolescent pain. Now I don't smoke. Those friends are gone. We've all moved on. Yet this music stays with me.
It kinda reminds me of 80s ambient TV mood music, like something you'd hear by Jen Hammer or the stuff on TV late at night, usually accompanied by static text on the screen. Strange thing is it is literally like an obscure 80s album that has been out of print for decades because it's virtually impossible to get hold of, even though it came out in the early 2010s. There was never a physical release either on CD or vinyl, so it's almost like it was out of print before it was ever released. I never even knew about this for years, and I was actively searching for this style of music.
I can imagine a dim room at 7 p.m. in September of 1988, with a Sega Master System hooked to a small Trinitron TV, smoke gray glass table with a jewelry rack full of brass items, a water bed. Venetian blinds slightly open with one panel missing, revealing a palm tree and an empty beach with foamy waves splashing, the smell of a dot matrix printer paper, and a rosy perfume next to a large oval mirror on a wood desk with amber accents. Light blue glow of the neon light flickering behind glass brick wall in the hallway, and a scratched laserdisc playing this music.
This music makes me feel like the world really has ended, and listening to it is like a secret method of realization. We're living in the post-death rebirth. We are eternal. There is no end.
Hey, remember when the entire internet collectively had a vaporwave phase and it inspired so much art and music and we just forgot about it within a year?
This album makes me feel like I'm a middle school girl in 1986 at school daydreaming.
I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that the second track of this record changed my life. It presented me to the world of vaporwave and made me take a deep dive into the wonderful world of sound. Loud vaporwave, random songs with Japanese titles that made me feel. A lot of those songs are now gone due to copyright, or maybe the original creator just thought their songs weren't good anymore and removed them. Whatever the case may be, I remember them. Thank you, Macintosh Plus. You are a legend.
This song has some real 1992 waiting room energy.
I don't remember the last time I listened to this album all the way through. It feels like ages ago. I was in high school when this came out, and now I'm finishing up my last year of university. Decided to put this on while I work on a project, and lots of feelings and memories are flooding back. Insane that this album turns 10 soon. Also, this album was briefly touched upon by one of my visual communications professors last semester. I never thought I'd see the day where we briefly discuss vaporwave in a lecture.
Trading those delicious memes on the stock market today. The aesthetics of this song reminds me of the 1990s Asian financial crisis, distorted, confused, yet sensual, chaotic, and enjoyable.
This album is what it's like when you're bipolar and having a manic episode. It feels good, but you get so lost in it that it's uncomfortable.
I'm in a hotel lounge on the last day of my vacation. I'm surrounded by art I don't particularly appreciate. Starting my second glass of wine, I'm connected to a modest Wi-Fi connection which doesn't extend as far as my room. Tomorrow I'm driving home, but for now, I'm living for aesthetics.
I remember being 12 trying to get into vaporwave. This album and St. Pepsi got me into the genre. Now I'm about to turn 21 this year and I miss the person I was 9 years ago.
I'm nostalgic for when vaporwave was a critique of nostalgia in our culture rather than simply one more expression of it.
This album makes me feel like I'm 11 years old, trapped in a Kmart at night while desperately trying to hide from demonic entities floating about. In other words, I like it.
This makes me remember the childhood that I never had.
Reminds me of an empty, dark airport I walked through as a kid. Just the ambient light from the retail stores.
For me, I envision a Miami skyline in the 80s with palm trees and neon signs.
Music flows. Like water, it is ever-changing, shifting its form with each space it has yet to confide in. And despite what you may believe, no, I'm not high, I don't smoke. I'm just spreading my words like how water flows.
When this album first came out, I graduated high school, and man, I would listen to this on repeat because of how nostalgic it felt. But now years later, I'm over here with my own home, and I am about to get married. Sitting in my office at 12 a.m. with a glass of scotch reminiscing on how much has changed since I got out of high school. When fake nostalgia becomes real nostalgia, man, life comes at you fast like a freight train.
I was like 17 when I first listened to this. I was hard at work on a project for an entrance exam for my college of choice. This kind of helped me get through the night when I put it on loop. Spoiler alert, I did not get accepted. Was the grind worth it? No, I should have started like 2 weeks beforehand, then I'd have more time. But I don't regret putting this on in the background, which was my first look into vaporware. I am 26 now and doing much better, and I occasionally put this one on to remember that one time I worked myself nearly to sleep.